Here comes the Penn State blitz. Lots of running room down the sideline. Eric All, the tight end. Will they catch him? No! Touchdown, Michigan!
And say, hey, Cade, you were born for this. Born for drives like this. And then he went out and did what he does. So, very cold-blooded. After that, guy made a good play. Made a good play with the sack fumble, but didn't bat an eye. Just came back and took the team down the field for the winning drive.
They had shown some man tendencies throughout the season on really big downs, and Coach Gaius had the perfect call for it. We anticipated it, we got it, and Eric made us right.
How about those Wolverines? If that's not grit, I don't know what is.
Welcome in. Dennis Fithian with you here, ready to get things underway on this afternoon live on this Monday, the 15th, after an eventful weekend out there on the football field for Michigan at Penn State, and then also the basketball team in action as well. Game 2, I'm going to cover all of that, plus the Michigan recruiting spotlight in the Memorabilia Minute. But we'll start talking about the football game. Those highlights, the Big Ten Network had the Eric All touchdown, that 47-yarder. That one will not soon be forgotten with the 47-yard hookup with Cade McNamara. You also heard Cade McNamara in there. And Jim Harbaugh in his post-game press conference out there in State College, a game that Michigan won 21-17. They got in the early hole 3-0 and looked like it was going to be 6-0 from the 2 there. Penn State gambling and going with a fake field goal, but Michigan gets that touchdown to take the 7-3 lead. They're looking pretty good, although Penn State comes up and is able to make it a 1-point game at the half. Michigan's best drive of the game was the first series they had in the third quarter. They took it down the field. They were awesome. There was 9 plays and 75 yards. Had a pass in there, super nice pass to McNamara to Eric All. He hit Roman Wilson. And, of course, in that drive, he had a lot of Haskins runs. Hassan Haskins was great in this game. Heading into this, I thought that Michigan would win this game 20-17. I thought because they could rush the passer and run the football. Now, is that exactly why they won the game? They made some big plays, both on offense and defense, late in the fourth quarter. That's why they ultimately ended up winning. But rushing the passer, getting those 5 sacks like they did, the combination of Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajabo, they're a handful. They're game wreckers. They're difference makers. And, yeah, you can chip and get some help for 1, but you can't do that with 2. And that's a big deal for Michigan and their defense, being able to get after the quarterbacks like that, like they have. And it's why they're going to have a chance in these final 2 games. That's right. A chance in that final game, certainly a chance coming up Maryland week as we get into it here on this Monday. Looking back at this game against Penn State, the first thing I asked myself after a game like that, I say, well, how do you feel? How do you think people feel? I think you should feel pretty good. I feel pretty good. Michigan was able to win the game. And you say, well, yeah, but what about if they didn't win the game? Well, if they didn't, it would be a completely different story. If they weren't able to make the big plays, it would be all different. How I would feel about the head coach, how I'd feel about the coordinators, the players, everything. Big difference. They won the game. Now, it didn't look like it. They get into that fourth quarter. They come out. They have a 3-and-out, and then Penn State goes down, and they convert the 3 fourth-down plays, and then they get a 2-point conversion. It felt a lot to me like the game against Michigan State 2 weeks ago. As Michigan was I felt pretty good about what I saw from Michigan against Michigan State. Andrell Anthony making big plays. Hutchinson and Ajabo, doing what they were able to do, thinking, you know what, this is really nice defense. I was thinking the same thing against Penn State, but yeah, the 8-pointer and then coming up big on those fourth downs and the 2-point conversion, it just, if you weren't thinking, man, here you go again, then you're pretty good at just walling up and staying right at the task at hand. But that's how I felt. Like this is going to be another game, and as well, or as how well things were going there for Michigan up to that point in the fourth quarter, even though it was a one-score game. There were a lot of 3-and-outs out there in this game here, 5 of them. I think I counted up, including that first one in the fourth quarter, and then Penn State goes out there and ties it up. It's like there's a lot of time left here in the fourth quarter. This is what it comes down to. You got to make plays on the road and come up big. And then, the next 3-and-out, what was it? It was a run for a yard or -1. You get a pass knocked down, and then on a 3rd and 11, a strip sack fumble. And it's like, man, the tide had turned so much. All right, you get a counter. Penn State finally getting in there and getting a touchdown and then getting a 2-point conversion. You're like, all right, Michigan, this is the time where you step up. You got to make plays. -1, pass knockdown, 3rd and 11, strip sack in your own end, first turnover of the game there for you. And it's like, oh man, the wheels have come off here. This is a sad performance. But you know what? There was still a lot of time left, and the defense did a nice job there, buried in their own end, to be able to force Penn State into a field goal. And even though Penn State, retook the lead there 17-14, you do, and especially when you're looking back there, Penn State scores a touchdown, might end up being a different story or feels like a different story, but they didn't. And Michigan's defense was able to just hold them to a field goal there, a 3-and-out themselves. But, the final drive comes down. I was just thinking about it, 6 minutes to go, and you're down 3. And Michigan went with, Hassan Haskins 5 times, 5 runs in a row. It was like they thought with the offensive line that they had, and with 6 minutes to go, that they would be able to line up and run the ball down Penn State's throat. And they were getting down there. And then 5 runs in a row, and that's when big down, they end up finding that little shallow cross there for Eric All coming across the field. And then he does the rest, turning it up the field, making getting his first touchdown in a Michigan uniform, and big play, exceptional run. And for McNamara hitting him there, and what a boost being able to do that. That was a lightning bolt. And still you needed the defense who had, they got the stop to hold them to the field goal, but you needed the defense to step up, and you needed the defense. There was still 3.5 to go there. And they needed to make that stop, or else all of this stuff is irrelevant. And they did. They got the 3-and-out, and ultimately the 4-and-out. Penn State going for it on the fourth down, on the fourth down there. Yeah, if I'm a Penn State fan, I'm not a Penn State fan, but if I was, shooting those go routes, which they really didn't have any success. I don't know if they hit any go routes. They threw a lot of them on Michigan, but having 2 of them, including the one on first down and on fourth down, if I was a Penn State fan, again, I'm not. I'd be upset with those play calls. Sure, they saw something on film, and they did have the coverage. So credit the Vincent Gray over there, and Clifford didn't even put the last one in the same area code. So but Gray was there in his back pocket. But I also think as a player that stood out, there were a lot of them. But I thought Rod Moore, the true freshman back there, he on the 3rd and 2, he came up with a big time hit on Jahan Dotson, where, in a lot of situations like that, it's hard not to, because Dotson's kind of going down. It's hard not to lead with the crown of your helmet. It's hard not to pop him with your shoulder in the head or neck area and get a flag there, and, able to get a new set of downs. But he came in like he had a board and came and put his face right into Dotson, and that was a great hit. And then really, he shows up. If you look, Rod Moore, he's out there the entire game in the mix. And that's a big time performance from a freshman back there, as Michigan was going to nickel and dime packages, whatever it was, and more. He's a player, and in the biggest spots, he was in there early going, and then all the way through, of course, on that last drive out there, and helping on that 3rd and 2 coming up with I'll make a case for one of the biggest plays of the game. So, you should feel pretty good. You always have to put everything in context. And yeah, there's a part about it. If you just take a quick second and think about, how you thought about the game or how you thought about the upcoming season. I didn't see anybody picking Michigan to win 9 games, let alone 10, which they're in position, and they're, what are they, 14.5-point favorite against Maryland. They should get their 10th win. 10 wins would be feel like a pretty successful season. You're going into the year saying 10 wins. You'd have sound, if you said 10 wins, I didn't hear it like anybody saying it. Maybe you posted it, and maybe you said, I really believe in this team, and that's great. If you did that, I didn't see any of those 10 win predictions before the season started. I picked 8, and here they are. They're in a pretty good spot to be able to put themselves in position for that final game. And it was only a few years ago, but the 2016 game, I thought Michigan was going to win that game. I picked them to win that game. And you know what? In 2018, I said, I'm not going to be fooled again. And then I wasn't fooled again, but I watched what transpired out on the field, both with Michigan and in Ohio State. And, Michigan was a pretty good favorite, heading down to Columbus when they ultimately gave up 62 points, and so, yeah, disappointing for sure. But I think everybody, if you're honest, felt like Michigan had a good chance to win there in 2019. I'm not saying this is a spot in 2 weeks that we're already talking about. I'm flipping. I like Michigan against Ohio State. I'm not ready to say that. I was a little surprised at Ohio State being favored by 19 points when I looked it up before the game against Michigan State heading into this weekend. So Michigan's still going to be a decided underdog. For sitting here right now, we're talking about, a double-digit dog at home. But, hey, you know what? If this team, the things that you have heard from both Jim Harbaugh and these players about not flinching, about having nameless, faceless opponents, about, having the walls painted or whatever they did in the weight room about what did you do today to beat Ohio State. I mean, one of these years it's going to happen. Maybe it is this year. I don't know. I'm not ready for that yet. But if this is a different team, these guys do certainly seem like they're a collection of players that are all rowing in the same direction, or anything else you want to say. A bunch of team guys, driving this bus. I don't see a lot of individuals. They seem like they like one another, and I don't know. That stuff's good to talk about. And, you hear it from the coach, but then you got to do it and deliver on the field. But at least it's there, and you're hearing about it. And so maybe that gives them a chance. Now, I'm going to look through, and when I think about what Michigan did on offense, that's, throughout the game, I saw a lot of people complaining about the offense, about the play calling. And I thought that heading into this game that Michigan was going to duplicate the Washington game plan, that it was going to be a ground and pound. Penn State wasn't great against the run, and that's what Michigan was going to try to do. And then once in a while, they're going to try to take some shots, passing. When I look at Michigan's, they had all these 3-and-outs, but man, their 3 touchdown drives were things of beauty, all the way through when you start going through and looking at it. And just how they performed, it was pretty fantastic when you think about. Well, I'm just looking here. Their first drive of the second quarter, they pick up that 4th and 1. Haskins reaching the ball over. Roman Wilson. I was just watching that play. It was a first down play from the 21. The throw by Cade McNamara and the catch. I mean, Roman Wilson runs, he turns, and McNamara sticks that ball right here. I mean, Roman Wilson puts up his hand, boom, right in there. Now, nice job being able to cradle that ball, make the catch, get your feet down, especially he's wearing it on his left wrist, the guard or the cast or whatever it is. He talked about that, Roman Wilson coming up big, and he was somebody before Andrew Anthony came up and stepped up for him. Roman Wilson was in there stepping up when a lot of people, myself included, were thinking, the second wide out after Cornelius Johnson, it was, probably Dalen Baldwin. You saw him. He looked pretty, or AJ Henney, myself. And I think the team even, they were targeting Henning, trying to get him going. I think, some of the plays that they ran, even in the second half against Rutgers. But here's Roman Wilson, came along, then he got hurt. Now, he's back, put together that big game. But a lot of feast and famine there for U of M on offense. The 5 3-and-outs that they had, but you get 6 minutes to go and you're down. However, the game went there. Michigan's down 3 points with 6 minutes to go, and the offense, they just needed to come out and they needed to put it together. And what did they do? Well, they ran Haskins 5 times, and then they came up with a 47-yard lightning bolt, put them ahead. So now the defense has got to step up with 3.5 to go, and they did. 4 straight plays. I mean, Penn State got 1 play for 8 yards. The first play is a go route down the far sideline, and Vincent Gray's in the receiver's pocket. Good job there by Gray. Good coverage. They get the 8 yards. 3rd and 2, I would give it to Jahan Dotson if I was the Penn State coordinator. If they were listening to me, that's what they did. An exceptional defense there. And again, talked about Rod Moore, and I don't know who the other DB was in there, but Moore was the one that came up with the big smack and huge play. And then on the 4th down, 4th and 2, why they go back to a go route down the sideline, inexplicable, but they did. And obviously they felt good about it. Michigan did show the man coverage. And again, the DBs coming up and making the plays there. I don't think they made a pass down the sideline like there. Again, I don't remember. I'll look for it when I go back and watch it. If you're watching, if you're somebody that's watching this live on YouTube, you can put some messages in right now and feedback, and I can respond to them. I also asked people on the Wolverine Den on the Maize and Blue Review message board. I put the question in. I'm going to refresh the screen here about what was a play or player that stood out to you over the weekend, whether it was basketball or football. We'll get to some basketball coming up, but I picked Rod Moore, and the play that I just talked about, watching it in the first half, that 21-yard strike to Roman Wilson. Now, those are the two. I went with the Roman Wilson 21-yard touchdown, great throw, awesome catch. And then the player, to me, Rod Moore. And I put that question down here. And if you had one, you could put it up here. I can actually show the question here. This one's from Antoine. Michigan needs to run more drag routes on all of Michigan's long scores. They're on simple drag routes. I agree, Antoine. You know what? It's Andrell Anthony against Michigan State. That 90-yard touch, boom. Crossing route, drag route. The 47-yard touchdown to Eric All, same thing. McNamara, that's the pass that he throws the best. I'm with you on that. So I know other teams know that. And when you see him do it, not that it looks simple, but it looks like it's so effective, and it seems like something that they should be able to do more. Hey, drop back, get the guy going. He's able to put that ball on the money, make it happen. And it's one thing, like you say, well, the defenses might start taking it away. We've seen in the past with the Michigan defense, you know what? Michigan had a hard time stopping it. And what do other teams do? They just kept peppering it like a boxer going after somebody's eye. Just keep pounding it until they could stop it. I'm with you on that. Drag routes all day long. Crossing routes. Really one score on long bomb throws if you're talking about the season. I know J.J. McCarthy threw that one down the sideline to Dalen Baldwin. That's one. He also threw one across the field to him. So you take that one away. The flea flicker to Cornelius Johnson against Wisconsin, that wasn't a drag route. That was a great throw by McNamara. I'm thinking of some of the other ones, some of the TDs, but in the one I'm talking about with Roman Wilson, I mean, that's not a drag route. That's just, little post route. That was thrown exceptional too. So there have been some other ones, but that is his best throw. And it looks so good with him delivering the ball there. I think they should do that more screens to Haskin, and they get rid of the RPO no one respects or thinks Cade is running. That's true. With the exception of last week, I don't think I've seen Cade take off and do anything in the run game. So I'm with you on that. If you're not going to respect it, there's really no reason to go to it. Throwing the ball more to Hassan Haskins, you say? Well, when you run for 156 yards, you think, well, did they need to do that? Well, they did. They threw to him. What? He had 5 catches for 45 yards. So that's 201 scrimmage yards for Hassan Haskins. Hassan Haskins is a pretty interesting back because he's not somebody that is blowing you away with 80-yard runs. I know he had the long one against Indiana, but most of these he's getting them in 5-7 yard chunks and carrying guys and falling forward or shooting diagonal just to get some extra yardage here. But yeah, we've seen this in the past. You get one back and he emerges, and you just through the flow of the game and everything else, you just go with them. And it was by necessity here. Like Blake Corum, if Michigan would have had Blake Corum, he would have been involved more. I get that. But there's also the part where you got a guy, and a lot of teams, just feature one back. And Michigan for, 20, 30 years, the Anthony Thomas or Chris Perry, you get a guy, and Mike Hart, you see, you just load up and you just feed him. And heading into this game, I thought, Haskins had a career high 27 carries and 168 yards last week. I thought get him between 25 and 30. And what did he end up with? 31 carries, another career high, 2 consecutive weeks. Yeah, I mean, you got a back like this, and you got a line that's blocking like this. It can be tough to watch as a fan that is watching modern football, that you expect a lot of fireworks and scoring. And to see it going down with running, you're like, what is this? This is what my dad talked about, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It's what Michigan wants to do. Can they ride it to a title? That's what we're ready to find out over the next 2 weeks. Can Michigan, featuring a running game and 4 yards and a cloud of dust and one back, can they parlay it into a Big Ten championship? And if they do that, if they get a Big Ten championship, well, then you know the rest. They're going obviously to Indy for the first time. That would be nice. If they win that game, like against Wisconsin, we're talking about the college football playoff. I know it's all ahead of us still. And there's no reason. I know a lot of people, they just go to the very end. That's not going to work. It's not going to happen. There's going to be well, I don't know. If you have to pin me down right now, I would say, yeah, it's probably not going to happen. But there's my suggestion for you. Enjoy this week. And, you don't have to take it one game at a time. You can talk about Ohio State. You can talk about potentially going to Indy. You can talk about going to the college football playoff. But, there's no reason to act like Michigan's lost when they haven't yet. So enjoy it until then. I know in the last 3 times where they came down to the game against Ohio State, and at least the last 2 times, they had to win the game. The first time in 2015, they needed some help. I think Michigan State had to lose to Penn State. We know that didn't happen or whatever else, but they were still going into that game with a chance. It didn't happen in 2015. And then in 2016, that was the triple overtime where the spot came up just short. Could have gone either way. I'd bring that up because I took the Big Ten championship weekend off with the idea that I was going to be heading to Indy to enjoy the Big Ten championship game. 3 times, 2015, 2016, and last time was 2018. I took that weekend off 2 weeks ahead of time. So people are talking about, well, you just it's Maryland, put the blinders on. Well, some people, you got 2 weeks to go. You got to sometimes you got to give like a month's notice. I was taking that weekend off 3 times. That worked out. I went and spent time with my dad instead down in Arkansas. And the kick in the pants, though, about that is that driving to Arkansas, I was going, 94 to 69 that goes right through Indy Or even when you take the bypass around Indy, there it is, driving around. Lucas Oil. I could see it. Saw it, and then drove right past. So yeah, the both the offense and the defense in the final 6 minutes. Offense scores with 6 minutes to go. The all touchdown after those 5 Haskins runs, and then with 3.5 to go, the defense comes up big in those 4 plays, and Michigan comes away with a victory. They've got 9 wins on the year, and they trailed 3-0, got up 7-3, 7-6 at the half. First drive of the second half was their best drive of the game. They go up 14-6. Yeah, you'd like to see them bury them so it doesn't come down to where it's nail biting time in the fourth quarter, but that didn't happen. 8-point play, tied at 14, sack, strip. Next thing you know, 17-14. All of those emotions that you didn't want to deal with, they came rushing in. I felt them myself. And for about a minute or two there, it was like, this team's, maybe they're not just, they're not good, and they can't make a play. And, this is why you lose games, but hey, it was just there for about a minute. And then the last 6 minutes, you're reminded how you win football games on the road. Well, you got to make big plays. Offense, defense, 47-yard touchdowns. Come up big on defense with 3.5 to go. Come up, make some big plays, don't commit any penalties, and you can get away there with a victory. Have a great performance by your running back, offensive line, and have a defense that has some difference makers like they did. Antoine's still bringing some messages in here. Let's see where he's at. Better not use the hell out of Haskins. Give the rookie some run against Maryland. Donovan Edwards. Yeah, I think they'll give Donovan Edwards some burn against the Terps. We're not running the Don Brown stuff. One more from Antoine. If and when Harbaugh leaves, I want to see a modern passing offense. I wish Peyton Manning was our offensive coordinator. Well, Peyton Manning's having too much fun, sitting around doing something like this on Monday night. I've been watching him. Yeah, you know what? I like win. Like, if you're asking me style points or how I want to win, I'm with you too, man. I would like to rack up 50 points a game, and I would like to do it through the air. And I would like to see, an offense utilizing the entire field. I love scoring points, and I love racking up the tally on the scoreboard. Fast break, big plays. It's awesome. But you know what? The bottom line is winning games. And if Michigan can plow, run, be a predominantly running team, and get to Indianapolis, I'm not going to complain too much. They get to Indianapolis, and I'll tell you what, they beat Ohio State. If they beat Maryland, they beat Ohio State, and they beat Wisconsin, and they get to the college football playoff, you won't hear one complaint until they lose. You're not going to hear any complaints from me about them, being a predominantly running team. Now, you can say they're not going to beat anybody in the college football playoff, run. Yeah, I know. Look, and that's weighing in front of everything. Like if I'm predicting today, I don't have to predict today. That's the beauty of it. Now, if you asked me how I thought they were going to do against Ohio State, I would give you an answer. But, there's no reason. Like, there's a lot of things can happen between now and Thanksgiving weekend, the 27th, when they'd actually have to play. All right, looking towards the Wolverine Den, I asked for a U of M player or play that stood out this weekend. Let's get some more of the responses here. And the first one's coming in from PMC Cray on the Wolverine Den. He's got a lot to say, and let's get to it right now. He goes to football first. I'm all right with that. This is easy. The crossing routes U of M ran that resulted in Eric All's gallop down the sideline to the house. For years, we've seen teams like Ohio State, Indiana, or Penn State just kill us by using crossing routes, mostly during the Don Brown era. For me, it was so satisfying in all caps, to see us finally use stuff on others. that they have so successfully used on us. Yeah. And you know, when you see successful plays and you go back and watch them, like you watch that pass to All, he catches it right at the line of scrimmage. It's a pretty innocent looking play. He's just a little shallow cross. McNamara just throws it to him. It's like, all right, and you get a first down. Next thing you know, he's turning it upfield. Maybe he's got a big gainer. Took it to the house. You know, you'll never forget. I'll never forget that play. Nobody's ever forgetting that one. So, yeah, that is easy. 47-yard touchdown when you're trailing by 3 with under 6 to go. And at that point, what was there? Under 4 to go. Because Penn State got the ball back with under 3.5. So, yeah, under 4 to go. Big play. One other one, second memorable play was the last play of the game when our young freshman D came up and put a crunch on Jahan Dotson. And because Dotson was hurt, he was forced to be on the sidelines for the final play. And he puts a thumbs up there. Yeah, you're talking about Rod Moore. I'm right with you on that one. That's the one that I picked. Now to basketball. Let's see, and I'll get to some basketball here. Basketball. I was sitting next to a guy at the game that was saying he was unimpressed with Bufkin and that Bufkin looked too weak physically. Shortly after that, Bufkin caught the ball inside the lane and used his strength against the defender to get closer to the hoop. Did a pump fake at the rim for an easy deuce. I looked over at the guy with a smile and reconsidered his prior thoughts on Kobe. It was as if Kobe heard him say he was not strong enough. I'll tell you this about Kobe Bufkin. You know, I'd heard a lot. You know, you ask people about, practices and things. I'm like, oh, yeah, Bufkin looks pretty good. And then they had the Midnight Madness or whatever. I saw the clip of him going in and throwing a dunk down, and I liked that. And then during the Wayne State exhibition, Bufkin came in, and he was running point. 6'4" lefty out of Grand Rapids. Now, Zeb Jackson was down in that game, and so was Frankie Collins. So Bufkin playing point there. And in the first game against Buffalo, Bufkin didn't do anything to me that stood out. But I am with you as you look back at the game against Prairie View A&amp. You got to write Kobe Bufkin down. That drive, changing direction, coming down with a jump stop at the rim and scoring the layup. That looks super smooth and really effortless for Bufkin. And then his jumper, lefties, when they shoot with the kind of form that Bufkin has, it ends up looking pretty sweet. He's got a sweet looking stroke at 6'4". And you know what? They can use this just in. Michigan can use some 3-point shooting this year. And if they could come in and whoever, there's some guys here that we would go to immediately. And Eli Brooks, is awesome, but they're bringing in Adrian Nunez, and maybe he can supply and some short bursts, some outside shooting. But as these freshmen, and you look at him, maybe it could be Kobe Bufkin could be somebody that could, hoist 2, 3, 4 threes a game. And you can think about him being deadly from outside. I like it. I'm with you on that. I thought he was one of the players of the game. Certainly a player to talk about, getting your impression. It's nice. I mean, when they have half dozen freshmen and you're seeing them in there, the first game, it was a lot of Moussa Diabate talking about him. This game, it was more about Kobe Bufkin. All right. We've got Sharp RZA on the den. He says, I like what I saw at Welshoff. Colson showed his athleticism on his sack. Yeah, and you know what? Welshoff, he was in there. Julius Welshoff, number 96, rotating those guys. I mean, as much as you're talking about Hutchinson and Ajabo, and you should. I mean, these guys are meeting at the quarterback every game, 5 sacks, strips. These guys, they're putting on a show that we haven't seen. And one of the reasons, if Michigan ends up winning these last 2 games, 3 games, 4 games, wherever you want to go with it, this. If there's success from this point out, they're going to be some of the first names that you're going to be talking about. Oh, Hutchinson. Oh, Jabo. I mean, it's every game. Those guys are great. And what it does is helping these other guys out. And I really I'm glad that Mozzie Smith has stepped up. His name was talked about a lot in the offseason. And, if I hear one guy's name, I hear, a half dozen over the years about, he had a tremendous spring. Mozzie Smith had a tremendous spring, and he brought it to the regular season. I like to see Hinton, Jeter, those guys inside. And, Welshoff. We saw last game, Taylor Upshaw. He made Penn State pay. And we're seeing some of that. Mike Morris, not so much in this game, not so much last game, but some of those games, the Michigan State game, I know there's maybe an uneven performance in there. He did have a pick in that game, but I'm with you. And I like the kind of going off the board with Welshoff and then with Junior Colson. Junior Colson's a true freshman. So let's just think. He was in for spring, Junior Colson, number 25. That's a true freshman linebacker. That's nice. And that's the same thing with Rod Moore. Rod Moore, he wasn't even in for spring. And Rod Moore is out there contributing all game long. 2 true freshmen. That's a good sign. I appreciate that feedback. All right, so some quick things on basketball before we get to the recruiting spotlight in the Memorabilia Minute here. Basketball 2-0. They go to D.C. and they take care of Prairie View A&amp in the Coaches versus Racism, the inaugural game there. And the things that you liked, I liked Kobe Buffkin. We just talked about him. And I like Caleb Houston. Like you can say, okay, you like the 5-star? I do. And I didn't see a whole heck of a lot where I was like, wow, in the exhibition game or the first game against Buffalo. But Caleb Houston, I like. He's not just a 3-point shooter, but the 3-point shot from him, it looks so smooth. And he can also take it in and drive as well. Had both of those. And I like what I see from him. He lets the game come to him. And it was the first game when they threw up against Buffalo. Where did he play in Florida? The rest of his teammates, they put up, see if I can find that. They put up the graphic of who Caleb Houston played with when he was in high school. And you're like, all right, well, he's playing at, Montverde, probably plays with some pretty good players. Not just some good players. Look at these. Played with Caleb Houston. Let's just read them off. See if we can read them off here. Cade Cunningham, the number 1 pick in the draft. Guys that played with Caleb Houston at Montverde. Moses Moody, who went to Arkansas, playing for the Warriors. Scotty Barnes, who's having an exceptional rookie season. He got bounced by Michigan in the tournament. Precious from the Raptors. Zeb Jackson as well. Not that. Did you know that Zeb Jackson played at Montverde with Caleb Houston? You do now. Those are some of the names there. But impressive when you see him. That's some talent, being able to run with guys like that. So I identify those 2 guys. I just say the other thing, man. Hunter Dickinson is, as long as Michigan has Hunter Dickinson, this team is a factor for everything. This guy is a monster. This guy is a matchup problem. And he kicks that ball and gets it out to the shooters and gets it out to the rest of the team as a big man. You can't teach that size and the immediate impact that he had last year. You know what? I remember this time last year, Hunter Dickinson, it was pretty apparent after a game or two. He's like, I just want to see him start, whenever he can. Austin Davis, you love him and everything, but let's get let's see Hunter Dickinson in there. The thing about Dickinson last year, he's dominating some of these easy games. I say easy. Michigan had a tough time in some of those non-conference games last year. But Dickinson, he's in some of these games, he's got the decided advantage. And I was just waiting. You love it when you have a great player and you say, you know what, I can't wait to see him against, the most talented players to see if he can rise to the occasion. And he did. And we know what he brings. And he shot the 3. That's great. He's able to do that. But just being able to go down there in the post and certain times in games and just going down there and saying, let's ride them. And Michigan's got that. And as long as Michigan's got him and the other players that Juwan Howard has been able to put around Hunter Dickinson, this team's a factor. This team's a factor for everything. So I wouldn't get down too much on, I see during the games, it's like, oh, man, they're so young. They turn the ball over. What about the free throw shooting? I'm not worried about the free throw shooting. Caleb Houston, Hunter Dickinson and Devontae Jones were 3 of 10. And people are complaining, you got to shoot free throws. You do get to shoot free throws, but Hunter Dickinson was a 73% free throw shooter last year for the entire year. So after 2 games and after 1 game, I think he's going to be okay from the charity stripe. And then Devontae Jones, look up his career free throw shooting. He shot 86% from the line last year. He's an 85% career free throw shooter. Yeah. Him, missing as many free throws right now. Is it a surprise? It's shocking. But my guess is that he's going to rip off like 10, 20 in a row, and you'll be like, man, this guy's a great free throw shooter. Well, he's a great free throw shooter, so I'm not worried about that. Am I worried about the 20 turnovers? I'd like to see them cut that in half. I think you look, Caleb Houston had 4, Diabate had 2. I like that Juwan Howard. I think they'll tighten that up when they get into conference play. Maybe they'll even do it this week. But you know what? Getting out there and letting these guys see what they can do. Like when people say it's almost cliche, we're only 2 games into the season. Like, let Moussa Diabate do anything. Like, his ceiling's limitless. I agree with that. Let's see what he can do. The guy looks like he's an exceptional passer. He's a rim protector. He can run the floor. He can throw it down with authority. He looks like he can face up and have a variety of moves. And do you want him taking it and running the floor and feeling like, hey, I want to see what he can do. And you know what? Maybe he can do all of those things. So allowing a couple turnovers here that you might even take somebody out if this was a regular season game, allowing him to go out there and see what he can do and get it down on tape where they can say, yeah, Moussa, this, just make sure you're not leaving your feet, And then there was a couple, I think Caleb Houston had 4 turnovers in this game. There were a couple, I think maybe the speed of the game, maybe just acclimating a little bit, because there were a couple little bounce pass down on the baseline where he was trying to, make a nice feed, and, it ended up being a turnover. Let these guys cook a little bit and see where they're at and familiarize yourself. What you don't want, and this is one of the great things that Juwan Howard and company are really good at. Let these guys go out there, and when they say be the best versions of themselves, but let's see what they can do, how they feel comfortable. If is it Diabate coming down and trying some, wrap around this way, some kind of, no, it's not that. It's getting the feel of where these guys are at out on the floor. And so I think those turnovers we're talking about in a week from now, 20 turnovers and the team loses, and you say, okay, they're going to have to put the clamps down on some of that, but I'm more worried about the turnovers than about the free throws. And I'm not worried at all about the free throws. And I'm not worried so much about the turnovers. Antoine talking about Jones pushing the point. We'll have a lot of fast break. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Final 4 for the Michigan team, guaranteed. Having 2 big men down low, and the rookie is athletic and wants to block everything. Yeah, hey, Antoine, the sky is the limit, man. There's no nobody should put any restrictions on this team. If you're talking about cutting down the nets, it can happen. Yeah, there's a lot of good teams, a lot of good players, but Michigan's right in there with all of them. I think it's going to be a fantastic season, and I think that winning the Big Ten tournament and going all the way, I'm good with that kind of conversation. Why not? They were that close last year, and I like the team this year. All right, let's take the turn and get into our last 2 items here. I thought today, I was like, you know what? I'll probably just go 20 minutes. I appreciate anybody watching and being able to deal with me this whole time as it's me here. I appreciate the feedback. We get into the Michigan recruiting spotlight. We do this every day. Big news in recruiting over the weekend. And a couple weeks ago. Well, let's not say a couple weeks ago. We've only been doing this for 2 weeks here at TMBR, the Maize and Blue Review. But I came out and tried to get a feel where Michigan fans were, where the people were when it came down to, hey, who's the recruit you really wanted? A lot of people were talking about getting Domani Jackson. Domani Jackson, the 5-star corner out of California, out of Mater Dei. He was committed to USC. And yeah, we knew he was friends with Will Johnson. He was in for the Washington game, and he had said a lot of nice things. Then he made a trip last week to Alabama, and Michigan looked like they had dropped to 3 in terms of, if you had to rank on ultimately where he was going to go. USC still number 1. Bama looked like they had moved in front of Michigan, and then Michigan, I wouldn't say a distant third, but, number 3. Well, over the weekend, we find out that Domani Jackson decommits from USC. And now, he liked his trip to Alabama. And who wouldn't? I mean, if you see the jewelry, cash, I don't know, whatever, you just see everything, whatever, the hardware. I don't have to explain what you're seeing down in Alabama. You saw for the, who got game. You know what Alabama brings to the table. You've watched Nick Saban talk to these recruits. So, but the thing about Domani Jackson, which is so encouraging now, if you're a Michigan fan, is he says he's going to visit Michigan again. He's going to be in for the Ohio State game. That game's on the 27th. And then he said, Domani Jackson, that he's going to be an early signing day special. That means that this year it's on December the 15th. It's the first time players can sign their letters of intent in the early signing period for football. And Jackson says he's going to commit and sign on the 15th. 2 weeks before that, Michigan's got their last chance to impress Domani Jackson and Will Johnson. He's friends with him. And so I think you're back and you're feeling really good if you're a Michigan fan. You were 3rd. I would say wherever you're at, I'll put Alabama there. And those of you who are listening to the podcast, I've got my hands just a little bit apart, but I've got Alabama slightly higher. But you get that visit and you get Will Johnson. What if Michigan wins that game? I'm not, again, slowing down a little bit on that tap of the brakes, talking about Michigan beating Ohio State, but a chance to impress the number 9 overall player in the Rivals 250. Will Johnson's number 16. But just for a second, and this class is at 19, that certainly boost up that number. Heck, with getting Domani Jackson, that might put it at 15 just then. I don't know exactly how that formula works, how they work with the team rankings. There's a lot of work to do before then, but you get Michigan closer to 10 than 20 and put a jewel in there like Domani Jackson, and then you go into next year and you're thinking, hey, Domani Jackson, Will Johnson as defensive backs, 5 stars out there. Jamon Green, DJ Turner, Vincent Gray. That doesn't just sound like it. That's a strong group of defensive backs. I don't know all those guys end up staying or not. But if they do, I don't know if they've ever had a more depth or if they've ever been stronger at the position. If you're talking about getting Domani Jackson and then having Will Johnson coming in with the guys and how they've played this year. We'll see on that. All right, it is time here. That's the recruiting spotlight. Let's go finally to the Memorabilia Minute. Now, this is 1 minute, me talking about some piece of memorabilia. And I've got 2 sketch cards that I'm going to show you. This is Tom Harmon, 2002 sketch card. So you can see they only made 250 of them. They're pretty sweet. And there's old number 98. It's nice. And here is a Gerald Ford. What number is that? 83. You can see a pretty nice sketch card here. Very nice from the Michigan collection. Now, my Michigan collection is nowhere near some of the great ones that I've seen out there, but these sketch cards that were just given to me, pretty awesome. That is the Memorabilia Minute. All right. I want to thank everybody for watching and supplying the feedback. How about Antoine coming in? He's still got more messages. Let's see. See what he's saying. Last one. Loves the show. He's going to subscribe. Antoine, I'd like to see it. I want to see you here every day, Antoine. I'm here every day at 1 o'clock, weekdays. And he's going to subscribe. That's good. Yeah, hit that subscribe button. Leave leave the feedback. Leave the feedback. Write a note there where you're allowed to respond. If you're somebody that's listening to the podcast, I'll ask you to do that as well. They always ask you if you want to write a review. Go ahead, write a review. This guy talks about Michigan all day, every day. Could be the review. I'm looking for that first review on the TMBR. If you're somebody that's listening to the podcast, go ahead. Leave a review right there. All right, tomorrow I talked with a gentleman that I saw a tweet from him, and he was pumped out about Terrace Reed, one of Michigan's early signees, Terrace Reed out of Missouri. And he was talking about him, that he watched him at the Peach Jam. And I sent him a message. I'm like, you want to come on and talk about Terrace Reed? He said, yes. So tomorrow we'll have a little hoops for you. Oh, yeah, Michigan, the 89 championship rematch. Seton Hall, Michigan, 9 o'clock from the Chrysler Center. Woo! Be ready for that. We'll be talking some hoops tomorrow. We'll also have a Michigan football question. Until then, thanks everybody for watching. And can I take it out with some music? Let's see. See if I can take it out with some music. Take it out with some music, and thanks for watching.